Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with three key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent. Good evening, Malcontents. This is David the Malcontent. Today is Thursday, March 11th, 2021. A year ago tomorrow, I wrote my personal post on my personal page and went totally viral and added a lot of rocket fuel to this page and a lot of exposure to this page, although I wrote it to my personal page. And so here we are. Technically a year, it's 365 days because it was a leap year, so it's technically a year later. And still added, exactly, Dora. Joe Biden's going to be speaking today at approximately 5 o'clock, our time, 8 o'clock East Coast time. I've got C-SPAN over here, so if you see my eyes drifting that way, it's because I'm watching the screen out of the corner of my eye over there for change. Right now, I've got everything muted. There's a press conference that is going on right now, or it's a press conference from earlier today. C-SPAN is indicating that what's playing is live, but I'm under the impression this press conference happened earlier today. Joe Biden has signed the Save America Plan Act. That's what it's called. Gross. Seriously, I think it's a gross name. But I guess we can thank the former administration for giving us gross names for acts. And it's just gross. Let me see if we can add a little more oomph to my voice. Is that better? Can you all hear me a little better there? All right, we're broadcasting on 4 channels, and again, what we're doing right now is just waiting. So here's the batting order for today. What we're going to be doing is the following. Number one, we are going to have the speech. Second thing we're going to do is we're going to unpack what's in the bill. We have a story up on malcontentnews.com. We'll be going through that story. Give me 1 second. Nose is itching me. It's the... Yeah, exactly, Shell. I totally agree with that. I feel this is the first day I'm like, whoa, we actually maybe turning the corner here. I mean, there's growing signs that we're turning the corner. I think we still have an opportunity to screw things up as a country. But there seems to be a lot of signs, as we've been covering in the last week, that people are, it's just starting to kind of sink in for people. One of the things I'm seeing out of Texas is, despite the fact that, hey, we're open up at 100% and we're lifting the mask mandates, in the bigger cities, which are the blue cores of Texas, people are generally still wearing masks. Not everywhere, obviously. It all depends on the store you go in, and the neighborhood you live in, and the politics of those neighborhoods. But we saw this before. For instance, we saw Georgia when they first did their, hey, we're going to open everything up, and then they had to walk it back. What they found was most people are still wearing masks. Texas, if you remember, over the summer, they opened things up, like movie theaters and all, and some movie theaters actually went and closed because there's nobody coming. Nobody wants to go sit in a movie theater and breathe in germs. Phase 3 opening is exciting here in Washington. I think there are concerns and worries that you have. I know that you're not going to see my happy ass in a movie theater, for example, but I'm pretty sure you're going to see my happy ass at a Mariners game. And I was saying last summer that the challenge, the thing that I see as the challenge of going to a Mariners game or a Sounders game, isn't when you're actually sitting in the stands. One of the things that we have learned is that generally, if you're outside, if you are 6 or more feet away from the people around you, particularly if you're wearing a mask, you're in pretty good shape. The challenge becomes going into the bathroom, getting in and out of the stadium, right? Those are because of the choke points. But I believe, because they said social distancing will still be required, so we'll have to see what that looks like at a place like T-Mobile Park. But I think that will be one of my first acts of normalcy. We'll see, right? I mean, California is definitely going right better. Courtney here saying, can't wait to go to a Kraken game. Yeah, indoor stadium games will be allowed at indoor venues are going to be allowed. I don't, and I know the Kraken. We don't have hockey yet. Anyway, it looks like Jen Psaki is putting on her mask, and I love her, by the way. I really do. She has but in a nice way. And it does look like that was a live press conference, and it does look like they're winding down. And yes, they have switched over to inside the Oval Office. So we'll go ahead like that so you can kind of see what's going on. President Biden is not in the Oval Office or speaking at this time. So, but we will switch that over. And the good thing is, when I switch that over, is I can kind of see now on my monitor what's going on. Sorry about that. I moved the mouse a little too far, just over for a second, so it blanked out. Actually, that was not me. I didn't do anything on the Restream bot. That was a total Restream thing. President Biden is entering the Oval Office, as is Vice President Harris. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn on the audio, as is Vice President Harris. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn on the audio, as is Vice President Harris. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn on the audio, as is Vice President Harris. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn on the audio, as is Vice President Harris. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn on the audio, as is Vice President Harris.
Their voices were heard and reflected in everything we have in this bill. And I believe this is, and most people I think do as well, this historic legislation is about rebuilding the backbone of this country and giving people in this nation, working people, middle-class folks, people who built the country, a fighting chance. That's what the essence of it is. And I'm going to have a lot more to say about that tonight and the next couple of days, and be able to take your questions. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is sign this bill and make the presentation tonight, and then there's going to be plenty of opportunities. We're going to be on the road, not only talking about What I'm talking about tonight is the impact on the virus and how we're going to end this pandemic. And we're going to talk at all the elements of the bill, beginning on Friday, Saturday, and through the week. So, thank you for being here. Got it. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
So that was earlier today when the bill was signed.
Here's a look at what's live Friday. At 11:30 a.m. Eastern on C-SPAN, a House Appropriations Subcommittee looks at some of the challenges facing the VA healthcare system. On C-SPAN 2 at 11 a.m., there's a joint hearing from two House subcommittees examining artificial intelligence technology and its implications for national security.
Oh my God, Rashi. Seeing your comment, Rashi.
C-SPAN's Washington Journal. Every day we're taking
the Hoover Institution, which really does want to contribute to a better world for free peoples.
Virus. Businesses, thousands of them, were forced to close their doors, and hospitals struggled desperately to care for
response this past year. The New Jersey Democratic Congresswoman.
So right now we're just waiting for.
And the pandemic 1 year later. Watch C-SPAN's Washington Journal.
We're just waiting for the feed to start.
And be sure to join the discussion with your phone calls, Facebook comments, text messages, and tweets.
You're watching C-SPAN, your unfiltered.
Nope.
C-SPAN was created by America's cable television companies in 1979. Today, we're brought to you by these television companies who provide C-SPAN to viewers as a public service.
Wait a minute. Yes, they have switched over. We're going to switch over.
Into law, nearly $6 trillion.
All right, so they have a talking head going over there as we're waiting for the podium, and you can see the feed. We are waiting for President Joe Biden. The before times. I have to find the Rick and Morty clip for the before times, especially because they have, if you're a Rick and Morty fan and you watched some of the episodes, then you'll know that there is a post-apocalyptic world where they go to Seattle to kill mutants. We're all waiting for Captain Walker and his hugs. Here comes the president. And Joe Biden will address the nation. It's believed his speech will be about 20 minutes.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. Tonight, I'd like to talk to you about where we are as we mark 1 year since everything stopped because of this pandemic. A year ago, we were hit with a virus that was met with silence and spread unchecked, denials for days, weeks, then months, that led to more deaths, more infections, more stress, and more loneliness. Photos and videos from 2019 feel like they were taken in another era. The last vacation, the last birthday with friends, the last holiday with extended family. While it was different for everyone, it we all lost something, a collective suffering, a collective sacrifice, a year filled with the loss of life and the loss of living for all of us. But in the loss, we saw how much there was to gain in appreciation, respect, and gratitude. Finding light in the darkness is a very American thing to do. In fact, it may be the most American thing we do. And that's what we've done. We've seen frontline and essential workers risking their lives, sometimes losing them, to save and help others. Researchers and scientists racing for a vaccine. And so many of you, as Hemingway wrote, being strong in all the broken places. I know it's been hard. I truly know. As I've told you before, I carry a card in my pocket with the number of Americans who have died from COVID to date. It's on the back of my schedule. As of now, total deaths in America, 527,726. That's more deaths than in World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War, and 9/11 combined. There were husbands, wives, sons and daughters, grandparents, friends, neighbors, young and old. They leave behind loved ones, unable to truly grieve or to heal, even to have a funeral. But I'm also thinking about everyone else who lost this past year to natural causes, by cruel fate of accident or other disease. They too died alone. They too leave behind loved ones who are hurting badly. You know, you've often heard me say before, I talk about the longest walk any parent can make is up a short flight of stairs to his child's bedroom to say, I'm sorry, but I lost my job. Can't be here anymore. Like my dad told me when he lost his job in Scranton. So many of you have had to make that same walk this past year. You lost your job. You closed your business. Facing eviction, homelessness, hunger, a loss of control, maybe worst of all, a loss of hope. Watching a generation of children who may be set back up to a year or more because they've not been in school because of their loss of learning. It's the details of life that matter the most. And we miss those details. The big details and the small moments. Weddings, birthdays, graduations. All the things that needed to happen, but didn't. The first date, the family reunions, the Sunday night rituals. It's all has exacted a terrible cost on the psyche of so many of us. For we are fundamentally a people who want to be with others, to talk, to laugh, to hug, to hold one another. But this virus has kept us apart. Grandparents haven't seen their children or grandchildren. Parents haven't seen their kids. Kids haven't seen their friends. The things we used to do that always filled us with joy have become things we couldn't do and broke our hearts. Too often, we've turned against one another. A mask, the easiest thing to do to save lives. Sometimes it divides us. States pitted against one another instead of working with each other. Vicious hate crimes against Asian Americans who've been attacked, harassed, blamed, and scapegoated. At this very moment, so many of them are fellow Americans. They're on the front lines of this pandemic trying to save lives. And still, they're forced to live in fear for their lives just walking down streets in America. It's wrong, it's un-American, and it must stop. Look, we know what we need to do to beat this virus. Tell the truth. Follow the scientists and the science. Work together. Put trust and faith in our government to fulfill its most important function, which is protecting the American people. No function more important. We need to remember the government isn't some foreign force in a distant capital. No, it's us, all of us. We the people. For you and I, that America thrives when we give our hearts, when we turn our hands to common purpose. And right now, my friends, we're doing just that. And I have to say, as your president, I'm grateful to you. Last summer, I was in Philadelphia and I met a small business owner, a woman. I asked her, I said, "What do you need most?" I'll never forget what she said to me. She said, looking me in the eye, she said, "I just want the truth. The truth. Just tell me the truth." Think of that. My fellow Americans, you're owed nothing less than the truth. And for all of you asking when things will get back to normal, here is the truth. The only way to get our lives back, to get our economy back on track, is to beat the virus. You've been hearing me say that for while I was running and the last 50 days I've been president. But this is one of the most complex operations we've ever undertaken as a nation in a long time. That's why I'm using every power I have as President of the United States to put us on a war footing to get the job done. Sounds like hyperbole, but I mean it, a war footing. And thank God we're making some real progress now. In my first full day in office, I outlined for you a comprehensive strategy to beat this pandemic. We've spent every day since attempting to carry it out. 2 months ago, this country didn't have nearly enough vaccine supply to vaccinate all or ever near all of the American public. But soon we will. We've been working with vaccine manufacturers, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, to manufacture and purchase hundreds of millions of doses of these 3 safe, effective vaccines. And now, at the direction and with the assistance of my administration, Johnson & Johnson is working together with a competitor, Merck, to speed up and increase the capacity to manufacture new Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is one shot. In fact, just yesterday, I announced, and I met with the CEOs of both companies, I announced our plan to buy an additional 100 million doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines. These two companies, competitors, have come together for the good of the nation, and they should be applauded for it. It's truly a national effort, just like we saw during World War II. Now, because all the work we've done, we'll have enough vaccine supply for all adults in America by the end of May. That's months ahead of schedule. And we're mobilizing thousands of vaccinators to put the vaccine in one's arm, calling active duty military, FEMA, retired doctors and nurses, administrators, and those to administer the shots. And we've been creating more places to get the shots. We've made it possible for you to get a vaccine at nearly any one of 10,000 pharmacies across the country, just like you get your flu shot. We're also working with governors and mayors in red states and blue states to set up and support nearly 600 federally supported vaccination centers that administers hundreds of thousands of shots per day. You can drive up to a stadium or a large parking lot, get your shot, never leave your car, and drive home in less than an hour. We've been sending vaccines to hundreds of community health centers all across America, located in underserved areas. And we've been deploying, and we will deploy more, mobile vehicles and pop-up clinics to meet you where you live so those who are least able to get the vaccine are able to get it. We continue to work on making at-home testing available. And we've been focused on serving people in the hardest hit communities of this pandemic: Black, Latino, Native American, and rural communities. So what does all this add up to? When I took office 50 days ago, only 8% of Americans, after months, only 8% of those over the age of 65 had gotten their first vaccination. Today, that number is 65%. Just 14% of Americans over the age of 75 50 days ago had gotten their first shot. Today, that number is well over 70%. With new guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, that came out on Monday, it means simply this: millions and millions of grandparents who went months without being able to hug their grandkids can now do so. And the more people are fully vaccinated, the CD will continue to provide additional guidance on what you can do in the workplace, places of worship with your friends, as well as travel. When I came into office, you may recall, I set a goal that many of you said was that kind of way over the top. I said I intended to get 100 million shots in people's arms in my first 100 days in office. Tonight, I can say we're not only going to meet that goal, we're going to beat that goal, because we're actually on track to reach this goal of 100 million shots in arms on my 60th day in office. No other country in the world has done this. None. Now, I want to talk about the next steps we're thinking about. First, tonight, I'm announcing that I will direct all states, tribes, and territories to make all adults, people 18 and over, eligible to be vaccinated no later than May 1. Let me say that again. All adult Americans will be eligible to get a vaccine no later than May 1. That's much earlier than expected. Let me be clear. That doesn't mean everyone's going to have that shot immediately, but it means you'll be able to get in line beginning May 1. Every adult will be eligible to get their shot. And to do this, we're going to go from 1 million shots a day that I promised in December, before I was sworn in, to beating our current pace of 2 million shots a day, outpacing the rest of the world. Secondly, at the time when every adult is eligible in May, we will launch, with our partners, new tools to make it easier for you to find the vaccine and where to get the shot, including a new website that will help you first find the place to get vaccinated and the one nearest you. No more searching day and night for an appointment for you and your loved ones. Thirdly, with the passage of the American Rescue Plan, and I thank again the House and Senate for passing it, and my announcement last month of a plan to vaccinate teachers and school staff, including bus drivers, we can accelerate massive nationwide effort to reopen our schools safely and meet my goal that I stated at the same time, about 100 million shots, of opening a majority of K-8 schools in my first 100 days in office. This is going to be the #1 priority of my new Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona. Fourth, in the coming weeks, we will issue further guidance on what you can and cannot do once fully vaccinated, to lessen the confusion, to keep people safe, and encourage more people to get vaccinated. And finally, fifth, and maybe most importantly, I promise I will do everything in my power. I will not relent until we beat this virus. But I need you, the American people. I need you. I need every American to do their part. And that's not hyperbole. I need you. I need you to get vaccinated when it's your turn and when you can find an opportunity. And to help your family, your friends, your neighbors get vaccinated as well. Because here's the point. If we do all this, if we do our part, if we do this together, by July the 4th, there's a good chance you, your families and friends will be able to get together in your backyard or in your neighborhood and have a cookout or a barbecue and celebrate Independence Day. That doesn't mean large events with lots of people together, but it does mean small groups will be able to get together. After this long, hard year, that will make this Independence Day something truly special, where we not only mark our independence as a nation, but we begin to mark our independence from this virus. But to get there, we can't let our guard down. This fight is far from over. As I told the woman in Pennsylvania, I'll tell you the truth. On July 4th with your loved ones is the goal. But a lot can happen. Conditions can change. The scientists have made clear that things may get worse again as new variants of the virus spread. We've got work to do to ensure that everyone has confidence in the safety and effectiveness of all 3 vaccines. So my message to you is this: listen to Dr. Fauci, one of the most distinguished and trusted voices in the world. He's assured us the vaccines are safe. They underwent rigorous scientific review. I know they're safe. Vice President Harris and I know they're safe. That's why we got the vaccine publicly in front of cameras, so for the world to see, so you could see us do it. The First Lady and the Second Gentleman also got vaccinated. Talk to your family, friends, your neighbors, the people you know best who've gotten the vaccine. We need everyone to get vaccinated. We need everyone to keep washing their hands, stay socially distanced, and keep wearing the mask as recommended by the CDC. Because even if we devote every resource we have, beating this virus and getting back to normal depends on national unity. And national unity isn't just how politics and politicians vote in Washington, or what the loudest voices say on cable or online. Unity is what we do together as fellow Americans. Because if we don't stay vigilant and the conditions change, then we may have to reinstate restrictions to get back on track. And please, we don't want to do that again. We've made so much progress. This is not the time to let up. Just as we were emerging from a dark winter into a hopeful spring and summer is not the time to not stick with the rules. I'll close with this. We've lost so much over the last year. We've lost family and friends. We've lost businesses and dreams we spent years building. We've lost time with each other. And our children have lost so much time with their friends, time with their schools. No graduation ceremonies this spring. No graduations from college, high school, moving up ceremonies. You know, and there's something else we lost. We lost faith in whether our government and our democracy can deliver on really hard things for the American people. But as I stand here tonight, we're proving once again something I've said time and time again, to probably tired of hearing me say it. I say it to foreign leaders and domestic alike. It's never, ever a good bet to bet against the American people. America is coming back. The development, manufacture, and distribution of vaccines in record time is a true miracle of science. It's one of the most extraordinary achievements any country has ever accomplished. And we also just saw the Perseverance rover land on Mars. Stunning images of our dreams that are now a reality. Another example of the extraordinary American ingenuity, commitment, and belief in science and one another. And today, I signed into law the American Rescue Plan, an historic piece of legislation that delivers immediate relief to millions of people. Includes $1,400 in direct rescue checks, payments. That means a typical family of 4 earning about $110,000 will get checks for $5,600 deposited if they have direct deposit or in a check, a treasury check. It extends unemployment benefits. It helps small businesses. It lowers health care premiums for many. It provides food and nutrition, keeps families in their homes. And it will cut child poverty in this country in half, according to the experts. And it funds all the steps I've just described to beat the virus and create millions of jobs. In the coming weeks and months, I'll be traveling along with the First Lady, the Vice President, the Second Gentleman, members of my cabinet, to speak directly to you, to tell you the truth about how the American Rescue Plan meets the moment. And if it fails at any pace, I will acknowledge that it failed, but it will not. About how after long, dark years, one whole year, there is hope and light of better days ahead. If we all do our part, this country will be vaccinated soon. Our economy will be on the mend. Our kids will be back in school. And we'll have proven once again that this country can do anything, hard things, big things, important things. Over a year ago, no one could have imagined what we were about to go through. But now, we're coming through it. And it's a shared experience that binds us together as a nation. We are bound together by the loss and the pain of the days that have gone by. We're also bound together by the hope and the possibilities of the days in front of us. My fervent prayer for our country is that after all we've been through, we'll come together as one people, one nation, one America. I believe we can and we will. We're seizing this moment, and history, I believe, will record. We faced and overcame one of the toughest and darkest periods in this nation's history, darkest we've ever known. I promise you, we'll come out stronger with a renewed faith in ourselves, a renewed commitment to one another, to our communities and to our country. This is the United States of America. And there's nothing, from the bottom of my heart I believe this, there's nothing we can't do when we do it together. So God bless you all. And please, God, give solace to all those people who lost someone. And may God protect our troops. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I look forward to seeing you.
President Biden, do you consider this a new phase of the pandemic?
So we just listened to President Joe Biden address the nation, and the speech was a little over 20 minutes. We were told it would be about 20 minutes. It's about 23 minutes. And here, let me switch over to the full screen view. There you go. I furiously was taking notes during that. I have a lot that I want to cover. I'm going to change up the batting order for the show, our show here. I was going to do this revisit of COVID from a year ago because it's literally tomorrow is the day a year ago where I wrote like this letter to America. I wrote this on my personal Facebook page. It ended up getting over 7,000 shares. It ended up like on Reddit and other places, and people actually started taking credit, like saying they wrote it. My personal Facebook page, it was read over 250,000 times. I moved to copy it over to Malcontent News, at that time Malcontent Tango. And I want to run this video, and the reason I'm going to flip things up is that the video isn't, I don't want to, it's not like it's dark, but it is kind of this, look, here are things that I wrote on March 12th, And a bunch of people said it was all BS and it's not that bad. It's not going to happen. And damn it, it all happened. My plan was to close on that. But there has been such a window of good news on the COVID front in the last 24 hours. It's not just the speech. There's a ton of good news. And there is good news that has come out in Washington State, which we're going to get into. And in the passing of the bill, have a ton of information on what was in the Save America plan. And I'm going to walk through it. I'm going to walk through what's in it, good, bad, and ugly. So with that big ass long explanation, I'm going to run that video clip first because I think it's important now, because we're going to talk about some positives on where we were a year ago and acknowledge that. And then we're going to dive into everything that's going to go on. And Rashi, I'm seeing your comment. Yes, it is amazing how low the bar was. But I will say that I think it was a very good speech. I think it was the right speech. I think he hit the right buttons out of the gate, which was this message of unification, of joint sacrifice, that everybody has been impacted regardless of your beliefs and regardless of your politics. It could be as simple as you couldn't see grandma, or you couldn't go to your church service, to you could have lost your job, lost loved ones, lost your home. But to some degree, every American has lost something in the last year. And with that, let me roll this video, and then we're going to come back.
Here at Evergreen Hospital, we've had, and I still believe now have, the largest cohort of critically ill coronavirus patients in the United States.
Last month, the famed restaurateur announced that he was closing 12 of his 13 restaurants because of the coronavirus. He went from having more than 800 employees down to just 5.
Boeing said today that they were going to be notifying employees that they're making their first layoffs since the COVID virus hit. They're going to lay off over 6,700 people.
Unfortunately, layoffs are a hard but necessary step to align to our new reality, preserve liquidity, and position ourselves for the eventual return to growth.
The coronavirus has devastated the airline industry. U.S. air travel has dropped 95% compared to last year.
Starbucks is reducing service to drive-through and delivery only. The coffee giant is closing access to cafes for at least 2 weeks across the country.
Major League Baseball will, in fact, suspend all operations indefinitely. Of course, there are a lot of questions. What does that mean? We do not have those details at this time, but we can tell you that all operations are going to be suspended.
Therefore, I'll be signing several executive orders this afternoon. Today, my first order will close all K through 12 public and private schools in every district across the state of Washington.
It is getting busy inside local grocery stores, places like Sam's Club and Hy-Vee.
It was swamped.
Shelves are empty and the lines are long.
Worried customers have been snapping up everything in sight. Store shelves nationwide are dwindling or totally empty.
This may be a first here in Western Washington at Fire Station 21 in Kirkland. You can see the sign on the doorway behind me. It has been quarantined due to COVID-19 exposure. Do not enter.
The restrictions that the president put in place for over 30 countries that we have in place now. Under these restrictions, we'll again identify them, look at them medically, and do a number of checks as they come back into the country. So that's what we're doing now. DHS and CBP have screened over 150,000 folks.
I understand what you're saying, that people need to hear positive thinking. But, you know, for the past 5 months, it's been the virus is totally under control. And the cases have been going up and the deaths have been going up.
Look.
But you've been saying it's under control.
Nobody knew what this thing was all about. This has never happened before.
With skyrocketing case numbers and an apparent shortage of supplies of essential equipment,
I quit my job today.
Some healthcare workers like Imaris Vera say the risk has grown too great.
This isn't going to get any better.
New York State now has more reported coronavirus cases than any country in the world. Let that sink in for just a second. And new pictures are a disturbing reminder of the human toll of that. This is a mass grave being dug for coronavirus victims at New York City's Potter's Field, where unclaimed bodies are laid to rest.
So that's where we were a year ago. Or as you saw, there were clips that were shown that were after or closer than a year ago, less than a year ago. But those clips were shown to reinforce that what was written on March 12th a year ago is what ultimately happened to us in a nation. In that letter to, it literally was Letter to Future America. I think that's what I called it when I wrote it, or something very similar to that. Not everything in there I predicted I got right. For one of the things, it was predicted that here in Washington, our Seattle area, that we would end up in the state that New York City ended up in. And the state of El Paso over the summer ended up in this state. San Francisco was right on the brink of landing on this state. Idaho, the Panhandle, was on the brink in the fall of falling into that state. Utah went into the state of rationed care. So you're getting triaged, and that's what I explained in the letter. And Joe Biden expressed this in his speech. The impact to our medical and healthcare system didn't just impact those who have COVID. It also impacted the people that have... One second. Oh, okay. I was like, something's not right. Now things are right. But it also impacted people that didn't have COVID. We had a loved one go into the hospital, and we weren't able to be with them. My mother had a stroke, probably related to her having COVID. So she was released from the hospital. She was in occupational therapy because of the severity of the COVID infection that she had. And while in that center, she had a stroke. And we weren't able to, go see her, physically in the hospital. So, so was in this situation of just, being stuck. That was her second stroke, also, that she had, stroke, seizure weren't actually, anyway. We were stuck. There's nothing could do. So, and I know too many people who have either had loved ones in the hospital or lost loved ones and couldn't be with them. My friend, Jim, died a couple of months ago. His wife of over 20 years could not be with him at his bedside. She had to say goodbye to Jim over a phone call, and Jim had to die alone. So it's had real impact on me. We really have come a long way. Oh. Of course, he knows. The cat knows when I'm on the air. Like, he'll come in here and like make cat noises, but then he'll position himself that I can't pick him up. I'm trying to pick him up and it's not going to happen. I don't know how he knows. All right. Let's talk about what is in this plan, and then we can unpack a little bit of Biden's speech and have some of the quotes here. So let's go over the core benefit, the high-profile stuff. Let's talk about that first. So for any individual that made $75,000 or less in the 2020 tax season, $75,000 or less in reportable income, then that individual is getting a $1,400 stimulus check. If that individual, say, is a single parent and they have 2 kids that live with them, then they're going to get 3 stimulus checks, as an example. If you're a married household and that married household makes less than $150,000 in reported income, then that married household will be getting $2,800 in stimulus checks. Each person will get $1,400. As President Biden alluded, for a family of 4, if the household income is under $150,000, then that is based, then you are going to make, or you're going to receive $5,600. There is a sliding scale. So if you make from $75,001 to $80,000, the amount that you get will shrink. At $80,000 goes to $0 or $80,001. At $80,000 is very tiny. For multi-income households, it is from $150,000 to $160,000. It shrinks. At $160,000, you get a little, or $159,999. You just get a tiny amount. So that is a shift from the prior stimulus ones. Catherine, I don't know. If you have direct deposit with the IRS, and if you fell within those income windows, then you will get the stimulus check. That's the way I understand it. The other thing is that Taverty Zero is correct. It will be based on your 2019 if you don't file your 2020. So file your 2020 so that you have that opportunity to get that tax. Okay, there you go. Rashi just gave you the answer there, which is my mom didn't get the $600. She did her taxes and got the $600. So there you go. There's the answer to that. So that's probably the most high-profile thing that people know and people are waiting for. I'm married to Dr. and Mrs. Malcontent. We don't get anything. So we're helping pay for somebody, and I'm not complaining about it. Now, if you're unemployed, and this is for the state of Washington, if you're unemployed and you're collecting regular unemployment benefits, you're not on extended benefits, you're good. If you're unemployed and you are collecting extended unemployment benefits, which is different from PEUC and different from PUA, extended benefits in the state of Washington are ending this week. The reason they are ending is because the unemployment rate in the state of Washington has dropped below a level that extended unemployment benefits are no longer eligible. So if you are collecting extended unemployment benefits, you need to refile with the Washington State Unemployment to get either on PEUC, Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, or Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. What is the difference? There is a difference between the two. If you don't qualify for PEUC, PUA becomes the fallback. That is the way that a employment security spokesperson explained it to us. However, for both PEUC and PUA, your unemployment has to be because of COVID. It can't be because of some other related reason. So in Washington State, the important thing is this. If you are in this gap that is between regular unemployment and extended unemployment benefits, your extended unemployment benefits end this week. You'll be able to apply, but then next week you're going to have to apply for PEUC or PUA. If you are already on PEUC or PUA, you don't have to do anything. You just keep applying for benefits as you do. Unemployment benefits will carry through September 4 of 2021. And I would say to anybody at this point, it seems unlikely to me, based on everything we've heard today, the stuff we're seeing in the data, the stuff that's in the recovery plan, because I'm going to go into a lot more on what's in there, I don't see another extension. So I would say most people, if you are on PUC or PUA, you probably need to start thinking about where I'm going to be working come the first week of September. That's just my personal life advice at this point. Information's available on the Employment Security website. They actually, for the first time, got ahead of the information. I think they're learning some lessons there. Also, not lost on me that the incompetent person that was running that department is no longer there, is regrettably with the Biden administration. I hope they're not doing anything too important. Now, here's the next thing, which impacts people on taxes. The first $10,200, if you collected any unemployment in 2020, the first $10,200 of unemployment that you collected is not subject to federal tax. Oh no, I've already filed my income tax return. You have to do an amended return. There is misinformation, fake news, false information saying they're just going to adjust it. That is not true. You have to do an amended return. It's not hard to do an amended return. There's a form. I should have looked up what the IRS form is. There's a form. There's a form for everything IRS, which is an amended return form. You do that, and then you update the areas in your tax return that you need to amend, and then you send it in. It takes about 6 weeks. Nothing is penalized on you for submitting an amended return, particularly in this case because you're filing an amended return because you got more coming to you. So you have this $10,200. Here is a hidden benefit that isn't getting a lot of coverage. If you are on ACA, if you are getting your health insurance through the Federal Health Exchange or through the Washington State Marketplace, this is really important. The amount that you pay out of pocket is now capped at 8.5% of your income. That's it. This is going to save Washingtonians millions of dollars on insurance premiums. This is huge. So, can I file 2020 before 2019? Pam, absolutely you can. You haven't filed for 2019 yet. Eek. Or if you mean eek, you got to file even eek. If you haven't filed 2019 yet, file 2019. Like do it. Eek. Anyway, back to what I was saying. If you're on those exchange for the next 2 years, premiums for ACA are capped at 8.5% of your income. Capped out. So it's either 8.5% of your income or what the premium costs, and that's it. So it's not capped at 8.5%, aka you're making $500,000 a year, so now you're paying out the ass for your health insurance premium. The health insurance premium, say, normally costs $800 a month, but at 8.5% of your income, you would normally pay $300 a month, and you're paying $300. If your income had you that you would be paying $800, and you're paying $800. So you have that. Here's the other thing. If you're paying for insurance through COBRA and your job loss was COVID related, the federal government will pay 100% of your COVID premiums from April 1 to the end of September. That's huge because usually COBRA premiums are astronomical, right? They could be $1,200, $1,500, $1,800 a month if you have family and great coverage. So that's huge. Let's go over what's in the bill because President Biden talked about a lot of this stuff. Yes, Rashid, it is huge. President Biden talked about a lot of this stuff, right? He made a lot of promises. So there's actually teeth behind the promises. So this is what was in this 1.9 trillion package. So the first thing I'm going to cover here is stuff for government, healthcare, and direct COVID response. $219.8 billion with a B, has been scrolling the wrong screen. Here we go. We'll go like that. Now you got it on the screen. $219.8 billion is available through December 31, 2020 for states, U.S. territories, and tribal governments to mitigate the fiscal impact from COVID response. By the way, this is the first president I have ever hear address tribal governments, and he addressed it in his speech, and I love it. Been on this planet 5 decades. This is the first time I've heard a president mention tribal governments and not say and screw them over in the next sentence. So of that $219.8 billion, $195.3 billion has been set aside for direct federal aids to states and districts. So when I say districts, like District of Columbia, $4.5 billion has been set aside for federal territories like Guam, American Samoa, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands. $20 billion has been set aside to specifically help tribal governments. I love this. $130.2 billion is set aside for direct federal aid to cities, towns, and counties. And there are formulas on how much money cities, towns, and counties can apply for. They can get up to 75% of their operating budget in federal support. $91 billion to the Department of Health and Human Services to accelerate the production of COVID vaccines and fund continued research while expanding testing and contact tracing. So this money is directly going to companies that are producing vaccines and researching the next round of vaccines. $47.8 billion going to Health and Human Services to diagnose, trace, and monitor COVID infections, directing Health and Human Services to implement a national coordinated strategy, including the use and distribution of testing kits, adding lab capacity, and creating mobile test capacity to support rural communities. See, President Biden in his speech said, we're going to be doing X. The money is there in that bill and has been signed for to get those mobile vaccination clinics out to rural communities, because this actually is a big problem. $7.5 billion to the Center of Disease Control for tracking vaccinations nationally and monitor the efficacy of long-term on the vaccinations. $7.6 billion to assist community health centers. Community health centers are in poor communities and rural communities to provide vaccinations and COVID-related medical services. So to hire additional doctors and nurses in those clinics. $7.7 billion also to Health and Human Services to rehire the staff that President Trump gutted out of the organization and to hire additional people. $58.5 billion to be set aside specifically for FEMA so that city, county, and state governments can apply for that money through fiscal year 2025 for reimbursement directly to COVID expenses. That's what's in it for government and healthcare. What's in it for you? We already talked about the payments, the direct payments. We already talked about the phase out. We already talked about the premiums that is happening in health insurance for those on ACA or state marketplaces. The other thing is that's important on those premiums for ACA state marketplaces, if you were buying your health insurance through Affordable Care Act, any taxpayer who received too much tax credit during the 2020 tax season because of this change, because of this cap, you don't have to pay back the excess to the IRS. There will not be a penalty, and you don't have to do a payback. We talked about extending pandemic employment unemployment compensation. We talked about expanding pandemic unemployment assistance. The additional $300 a week going to those people on unemployment, that is extended to September 6th. For Washington residents, it cuts off on September 4 because September 4 is that Saturday. Exempts the first $10,200 collected through unemployment compensation for the prior year and this year. So, again, if you're collecting unemployment in the state of Washington, you collect all the way through September, you get the maximum amount. I think you come in at about $40,000. The first $10,000 doesn't count on your taxes. Expansion of the child tax credit and earned income tax credits from $2,000 to $3,000 and up to $3,600 for children under the age of 6. Big impact for low-income families. Expansion of the child and dependent care tax credit, increasing the credit to $4,000 for one child and to $8,000 for 2 or more children. $21.5 billion in emergency federal rental assistance for those who are facing unpaid rent and are facing eviction. $5 billion to support community efforts to provide support services and housing solutions to the homeless. I'm sure Seattle will find a way to get their hands on that money and screw it up, but that's a whole separate story. $10 billion through the Department of Treasury to provide direct assistance to homeowners and small landlords facing foreclosures due to job loss or uncollected rent. Yes, that is right. There is money in there to help small landlords. We wrote about this in our story about the wealth transfer, and we interviewed somebody who was a small landlord and is on the brink of losing their property. So there is money for help for renters. There is money help for landlords. And don't forget, if a renter gets federal money to pay the rent, where does that money go? It goes to the landlord. And so then the landlord gets the help. All right, businesses. What's in it for businesses? $28.6 billion of small relief to small and mid-sized restaurants. $1.25 billion is added to the Shuttered Venture Operation Grant Program. That helps directly live music venues, performing arts centers, independent movie theaters, and museums. So here locally, Kirkland Performance Center, you think of like Pneumo, right? Pneumo's has been struggling that if they don't get help, they're going to be closed forever. This money is going directly to help bail out all of these small entertainment venues. $15 billion in new funds for the Targeted Economic Injury Disaster Loan Grant. So it's an existing program, another $15 billion added. $7 billion added to the existing Paycheck Protection Program to expand sport specifically for 501c5 nonprofits. That's really huge, because I know there were a number of nonprofits that were cut off. We're in this 501c5 category, and we can get no aid. $10 billion to aid the creation of state-led programs which utilize private capital for low-interest loans and other investments to support business leaders. This is one that worries me a little bit, but we'll see what happens. Extends the employee retention tax credit through December 31, 2021. And then this is another one, because this was stripped out of the last plan that former social media icon Donald Trump signed on December 27. It restores Family and Medical Leave Act tax credits, providing payroll tax credits to employers who voluntarily provide paid sick leave through the end of September 2021 to those infected with COVID or have to care for an FMLA qualified relative who has COVID. That's right. Sick leave for COVID has been put back into play because it was taken out on December 27. So that we have this bit of good news, but wait, there's more. No, seriously, there is. There's more, because we also have this bit of good news. Yes, I really want to log out. I didn't want to be on that page anyway, so we'll go like that. Now you get to see all the stuff, but we have this bit of good news. All Washington counties are moving to phase 3 reopening on March 22nd. So what exactly does that mean? What happens on March 22nd? Restaurants are going to be able to open at 50% seating capacity or 400 people indoors, whichever is lower. So for most restaurants, it'll be 50% capacity. Indoor venues with permanent seating for 800 people or less, such as movie theaters, will be able to reopen at 50% capacity. Indoor venues with permanent seating, there's a typo there of eating, it's not eating, it's seating, for 800 or more people, such as indoor arenas, will be able to reopen at 25% capacity. Outdoor venues, such as stadiums, will be able to have in-person spectators again at 25% maximum capacity. So this includes high school sports, professional sports, rodeos, motorsports, and other spectator events. So Seattle Mariners are going to be able to play their home opener when they have it in T-Mobile Park It'll be up to 25% capacity, which is fine because the average attendance at a game was about 25% of the capacity of the stadium. So it all works out good in that department. Social distancing has to be carried out in all of this. People still have to wear masks. All indoor spaces. That includes offices, factories, gyms, fitness centers, and others will be able to open at 50% capacity or a maximum of 400 people, whichever is lower. The state of Washington has not released specific industry information on, for this industry, these are now the new rules. For this industry, these are now the new rules. They're going to be released next week. If we don't screw this up, like, we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel a year later. Next thing I want to kind of just go over is some key quotes that came out of Joe Biden's speech. He opened up with a smack in the face to former social media icon Donald Trump, saying that the COVID was met with silence, spread, unchecked denial for days, then weeks, and then months. He went on to say that photos and videos from 2019 feel like they were taken in another era. That's quote unquote. He quoted Hemingway saying, being strong in all of the broken places. That was something that jumped out at me. He went on to say, as of now, total deaths in America, 527,726 people. He claims that he has the number is updated on his daily card, and he carries it with him everywhere. He said that was more deaths than, he did not say the term combat death, and I know he's going to get roasted for this because he didn't say combat deaths, but he went on to say that there were more, the exact quote was, more deaths than the deaths of World War I, World War II, and Vietnam combined. He would have meant combat deaths in that figure. And that actually, right, when you think about the period, World War II was about 4.5 years. Vietnam War is 10 years. World War I, our involvement was like 17 months. We had those deaths in 12.5 months. And then he went on to say that maybe worst of all was a loss of hope, which I'm going to have to agree. He addressed that a generation of children have lost a year of studies or more, and the impact to them, both from a performance and a psychological standpoint. One of the things that jumped out to me was, it is the details that matter the most in life, and we miss those details. That is a tremendous quote. Pam, I know, don't you love that? Former social media icon. Former. We are fundamentally a people who want to be with others, to laugh, to talk, to hold on to one another, and this virus has kept us apart. It's another really great quote that I think that came out of his speech. The things we used to do that always filled us with joy have become things we couldn't do and broke our hearts, which is back to this theme of joint sacrifice and joint suffering. He then moved on to address the division that was created in this country. And I would say 70% of his speech from that point was an appeal to come together. Too often we turned against one another. A mask, the easiest thing to do to save lives, became politicized. Let's see, what else? He went on to say, as your president, I want to tell you I am grateful to you, to all of you. And then he went on to say, my fellow, which again feels like a slap to former social media icon Donald Trump. My fellow Americans, you are owed nothing less than the truth. And then he went on to say, and I'm going to drop some truth on you now. Let's do this. You don't need to see that story anymore. Then he went on to say, here is the true quote, here is the truth. The only way to get our lives back and our economy back is to beat the virus, unquote. Then he went on to say, this is one of the most complex operations we have ever seen as a nation. I have put us on a war footing to get this job done. Dan, I saw that. I know you're like, that was icky. It sounds like hyperbole, but I mean it, a war footing. What he's referring to is his use of the War Powers Act for the specifically for the manufacturing of vaccines. He went on to bring up that Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson and purchased hundreds of millions of doses. He mentioned again in another slap to former social media icon Donald Trump that 2 months ago this country didn't have nearly enough vaccines supplied, but soon we will. There's some things in his speech, by the way, I'm going to zing him on. It's coming because there's something that is like, nah, Joe, I'm not going to let you get away with this. Going to hold you to the same standards. It is true. He announced the 100 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. There's three things that are significant about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Number one, it can last for months in a regular refrigerator at 36 to 46 degrees. It can last for 3 months at those temperatures. That's number one. Single dose. That's number two. And number three, it is actually in testing showing to be more effective against the variants than it is against the earlier variants of COVID. It is actually showing to be particularly effective against the South African variant. Right now, based on everything that I know, look, I'm going to get whatever vaccine I can get when it becomes available to me. I don't care. I just want the flipping thing at this point. I want my life back to normal. I think like everybody else. If I could have my pick, I would pick the Johnson & Johnson vaccine because of its effectiveness on the newer variants. I firmly believe that we will probably be in this state. I don't know if we'll be in a state of like flu vaccines. We're going to have to get this once a year. But Dave Moon got his vax. Dave Moon in the house. But I do think that we're going to be, well, this is mutated. We're going to do another round, and this is what you're going to need if you want to continue to do on that. And so he goes on to say, just like we saw in World War II, we will have enough vaccine for all adults in America. But oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I'm munging two things up. But what he was talking about, just like in World War II, he's talking about the efforts. He then said we will have enough vaccine for all adults in America by the end of May. And then he went on to say he's calling in active duty military, FEMA, retired doctors, and nurses and administrators to start giving out those shots as quickly as possible. And as we reviewed, the money is available in the $1.9 trillion package, along with the money to fund health centers, along with the money to fund community centers, and as along with the money to fund the mobile clinics. So the money is there. Working with governors and mayors in red states and blue states as another kind of backhanded slap to social media. Former social media icon Donald Trump set up 600 federal vaccination centers. And I am sure that the QAnon folks are just lost their collective shit over that. Now, Joe, I'm going to have to call you out on some shit. He went on to say that when he took over on January 20, only 8% of those over 65 had been vaccinated, and now that number is over 70%. I know he gave an exact number, and I know it was 70-something, but he had already moved on by the time I was typing it. It's over 70%. Yeah, okay, I get it, Joe. I really do. But I'm going to go, I'm not letting you pass on this one. I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to let him get a hall pass on this one. Because, yeah, spam those mallet hearts. I haven't said that yet. Michelle, thank you for bringing that up. Spam those hearts. Let those mods and admins know you love. And also, screw around with the algorithm. We're like, we don't have as many eyeballs before because there's a whole lot of protest porn going on. And audience loves that. I know you're the core. I'm preaching to the choir. But the fringy people kind of only show up when the shit's hitting the fan. Joe, I get it, right? 8%, yay, look at what I've done in 50 days. However, the vaccine had only been available since maybe the end of November and in very limited numbers. So I'm not going to hold your feet to the fire on zinging the Trump administration on the low number of people that were vaccinated because the rollout had just started. I don't think that is a fair poke. There's a lot of things poke, but I didn't think that was a fair one. I'm calling it as I see it. If you haven't watched before, then look, the other people here are going to tell you, I'll give the devil a hall pass if I think the devil deserves a hall pass. And in this case, the former social media icon deserves a hall pass. He goes on to say, he promised 100 million shots by day 100. Yes, he did. He promised that on his first day. And Jennifer and I said, we're going to hold your feet to the fire on that 100 million. Because let's face it, on January 21, that seems like mission impossible. It's just like 100. What are you talking about? A third of the country vaccinated within 100 days? Yeah, good luck with that. He's right. At current numbers, they're going to roll over that in about 10 more days. We've been tracking it. And we actually did an update on that number when they were at 40 days. And I know they were sitting at 62 million. I see that comment. He says that new tools are going to be launched and where to find the vaccine and get a shot, including a website. No more searching day and night for an appointment for you or the one or a loved one. That's quote unquote. A couple of things here that I think is very interesting. Let's remember, former social media icon Donald Trump said that we were going to have this beautiful, amazing app for contact tracing, and he was working with Google and other tech companies. And if you remember, Google, like a few hours later, is like, we don't know what the hell he's talking about. Like, no one has talked about this. And I remember even here in the local community, like people are, oh no, Google's really working on it. Like the people at Google who like would literally be working on this. Oh, that's so funny. My phone's hearing Google over again. Who would literally be working on this, who like work at Google and Kirkland are going, we don't know what the hell you're talking about. And of course, as we know, there was no federal contact tracing app, and it just disappeared, and we don't want to talk about it. Just like he promised the $500 million, I held his feet to the fire all the way that one, and I gave up tracking it in June, right, the $500 million N95 masks, that he had bought a $500 million N95 masks. Everybody in this country can be getting an N95 mask. People, doctors, there'll be so many N95 masks, we don't know what to do with it. That never happened either. So, Joe, we're going to hold your feet to the fire on the promise of this centralized website on how to get a vaccine, because right now it is a shit show trying to get a vaccine. So we're going to hold your feet to the fire on that one, Joe. We're going to track that. We're going to keep tracking the 100 million and the 150 million. He said he can accelerate the massive nationwide school open a majority of K-8 schools within his first 100 days of office. He did promise it. In a way, if you think about it, it's kind of like a goal, because by the time he gets to his first 100 days in office, yeah, a majority of those schools might be open for like a month, and then summer vacations here. And for not an insignificant part of the country, their schools end in May. Like when I lived in Texas, school there ended in May and started in August. Thank God they had air conditioning in schools. Whew. I couldn't imagine being inside a school without air conditioning in August. So for a fair number of schools, it's like a whatever. We know that a number of school districts here are saying, right, they've called punt already. I don't know if he's going to hit this one. So, can and will are two different things. And then it goes on to basically say, we're never going to get back to normal if we don't get enough people vaccinating. No shit. And then he said, maybe most, quote unquote, maybe most important, I promise I will do everything in my power. I will not relent until we beat this virus, but I need you, the American people. I need you. This is another thing I'm going to say. I tried with Donald Trump to like transcribe the speeches in real time when he would do stuff to try to and it was just such a rambly, bigly, huge. Let me tell you. I'm going to tell you. Let me tell you this, okay? It's beautiful. It's amazing, right? And it would just be like, oh my God, this is so hard to transcribe. And then I wouldn't be able to go, he said, quote unquote, this. It was rare. I think I wrote like 2 pages of quotes out of this speech. And how does Biden's 78 years old? Where does he have his friggin' energy? Oh my God. I think I have less energy than him. He's Sleepy Joe. No, I'm Sleepy David. He put a line in the sand. Independence Day. He said, Independence Day. Mark that as our independence from this virus. Then he went on to say, and I quote, on July 4th, with your loved ones is our goal. A lot can happen. Conditions can change. Scientists have made clear things could get worse again as new variants spread. My message to you is this. Listen to Dr. Fauci. He has assured us the vaccines are safe. So as we say in the Jewish faith, next year in Jerusalem, now we're saying this year at the fireworks. Boy, we can hope. Unity is what we do together as fellow Americans. He then probably spent the last 5 minutes of his speech reaching out to his opposition and reaching out to his political right. Let's remember, not a single Republican voted for this $1.9 trillion package. Shell, I'm way more sleepy than he is. I am too. My God. Yoda's passings hit me like a ton of bricks. I was telling Dr. Mrs. Malcontent, I wish I could just crawl into a room, close all the blinds, and not leave for 2 weeks. And she's like, so then just crawl in a room and close it. It's like, I can't. I got the real job. Actually, real job's picking up. I got the real job. I got this. We got taxes. We got our taxes at the end of the month I'm getting ready for. It's like, oh my God, there's so much to do. I couldn't curl up in a ball and do nothing if I didn't want to. Yoda thing, man. You know, and the thing is, I'm like a total sidebarding. It isn't Yoda. It's everything else. Yoda was like, that was the last straw. And a couple of hours before they showed up for Yoda, I told Dr. Mrs. Malcontent, I was like, it's all going to come out. I said, you know, and she's like, I said, it's just the whole year. It's all going to come out. I said, it's just going to flood out everything I've been holding in, you know, the trauma and the protest coverage and Jim dying and the economic struggle I've had the struggle that I've seen with people. And it's just all going to just, and that's exactly what happened. You know, the cork is just popped. I will say, Kitty, Makarov Kitty, first of all, it seems like he's figured out the dog's not coming back. But the second thing, he's been a total suck up to me lately, which I'm actually really liking. He's actually on the floor, but he knows I want to pull him into my lap and put him up on camera. So he is literally about a foot out of reach, little bastard. All right, back to what Biden had to say. We're almost done unpacking all this. You know, there is something else we lost. Another quote. You know, there is something else we lost. We lost faith in our government and our democracy if it can deliver on really hard things for the American people. That's a great friggin' quote. And then he went on to say, it is never a good bet to bet against the American people. That is another great quote. And it is actually something that I want to believe still exists in this country. This is the first time in my lifetime with what happened with COVID, where, you know, not only did we not come together, we tried to overthrow the government. So I don't know. And then he goes on to list off, like, we put a rover on Mars and some, you know, recent accomplishments that have happened. And then talks about the American Rescue Band. Then he says, we are bound together. This goes to this message of unity for like the last 5-6 minutes of the speech. We are bound together by the loss and pain of the days that have gone by. We are also bound together about the hope for the days ahead of us. We are seizing this moment, and history will show, I believe, one of the darkest periods in our nation's history, and we have risen up to the challenge. This is the United States of America, and there is nothing, and he said some other stuff that I was like, I'm not typing that, we can do when we do it. There's nothing we can't do when we do it together. And, I mean, historically, if you look at it, that really is true. So, All right, K variable. I see the thing, and I just flipped over to. I have Twitch on this screen, so I'm minding the store. So anyway, Jennifer has the night off tonight, and we're not going to do happy hour because we had this speech that was announced today. We're not going to cover every Biden speech like this. Number one, just like we didn't cover all of Trump's speeches. We did cover some Trump speeches, by the way. If you're new to here, you're just doing this. No. We would show some Trumps when they were doing the briefings, the COVID briefings. We ran some of those and covered them, and some of them we were just like, oh my God, he just didn't. No, and other ones there were times when very early into this, there were a couple of times where I was like, you know what? Donald Trump said the things that need to be said. There's a message of unity. He's doing the things, and he would act presidential, and he would do it for like 2 or 3 days, and then he would stop reading the teleprompter, and some batshit crazy person would start blah, 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 blah in his ear, and then we would start talking about UV lights up our ass and injecting bleach in ourselves. By the way, do not shove a UV light up your ass. Do not inject yourself with floor cleaner or bleach. It's not going to cure COVID. I mean, it certainly is. The other thing that jumped out at me is, this wasn't like in the Oval Office surrounded by 20 people, and it didn't feel like some reality TV show circus where the adults in the room are sitting at the back corner just making faces like "kill me now," or "I can't believe you just said that." So I'm sure, let's go look on the other screen. Let's go look on the other screen. Oh, this is gonna be delicious. I want to see something here. Let's see. Fast resets. All right. So, the headline over on Fox News: denials for days. Biden takes shot at Trump admin over handling of coronavirus before delivering vaccine eligibility news. The truth hurts, Fox, because he's 100% right. Anyway, that's what Fox News has to say about it. CNN's headline: Biden to Americans, I need you to get vaccinated. That's what CNN's headline is. MSNBC headline: Biden announces all adults will be eligible for COVID vaccine starting May 1. And the second thing is that allegations against Cuomo from 6th accuser referred to local police. So MSNBC not afraid to call out their own. I just making that note as they're side-by-side headlines. Let's see what ABC News has to say. Key takeaways from Biden's first primetime address to the nation. Interesting, they hyphenated primetime. I've always seen primetime as one word. I don't know if ABC News goes by Chicago-style guide or the AP-style guide. Now I'm going to go look in the AP-style guide. I just wrote it prime time without looking in the style guide as one word. Interesting. Let's see. Who else we want to look at? USA Today, what's their headline? Biden says America's coming back as he memorializes a pandemic year. That's the interesting take from USA Today. I don't know if I don't have a Washington Post subscription. Officials mark a difficult year, offer hope for what's ahead. Biden directs states to make all adults eligible for coronavirus vaccine by May 1. Let's see. Wall Street Journal. What do they got to say? Biden tells states to make all adults eligible for COVID-19 vaccine by May 1. I wonder if that's just an AP story that's being shared across there. Let's see what Newsmax has to say. Biden to order all adults be eligible for vaccinations by May 1. So, for whatever it's worth, Newsmax has a more rational headline than Fox News. This is the... I'm going to pull it up on screen. There's Newsmax's headline. Here's the thing, too. I can click on it, and I'll be able to read it here. I just want to see, is this just an AP story, or is it in-house? Bloomberg News. They're pulling a Bloomberg News story. But anyway, that's their story on this. I hit the wrong button. All right. You know what? I'm going to regret it, but let's see what One American News has to say. I have a feeling it's going to be ick. Sure, I agree to your things. OWN isn't even acknowledging that the speech happened. GOP delegation calls on Biden to address border crisis. Travel to Texas to see firsthand. There you go. So OWN, no $1.9 trillion relief, no $1,400 checks, no vaccines. Scary brown people are trying to cross the border. That's OWN. So OWN is scary brown people. Newsmax is you're getting a vaccine, and Fox News is, oh my God, they insulted dear leader. Let's pull up Twitter. What's trending on Twitter here? Let's see. Well, let's see. Jon Stewart's trending. Let's just see what the hell that's about. Let's see if it has anything to do with this. Oh, Jon Stewart. I called Tucker Carlson a dick on national television. It's high time I apologize to dicks. Hello, Joyce. And Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea. All right, Malcontent. I think we've kind of completed our coverage for this. The big thing here is, here, you want to do Inception? We could do Inception mode. Check this out. We could do Inception mode. We joke. This is when we talk about Inception mode. Here we go. This is what we mean by Inception mode, okay? There you go. You've got me, into me, into me, into me. Oh, my goodness gracious. So there you go. Boom. There you go. There's your Inception mode. We're in Inception mode. It's a screen into a screen into a screen into infinity. All right, Malcontents. Look at that, man. That's friggin' fantastic. It just went over. Inception mode. Anyway, when Jennifer and I are getting ready for a show, and she needs to check her framing, I will set it so that she can see her camera. Be great, because she needs to adjust her camera there. And then I wouldn't say it's like an inside joke. It's just, here, I'm going to put you in Inception mode. Because what starts to happen, right? You get this effect that's going on, this screen into screen into screen, because she's looking at herself on the rebroadcast of the screen. So, all right, Malcontents. That's what's going on. We should do happy hour on Monday. Streaming on Saturday, almost definitely. It's a little harder because a couple of websites have shut down, or a couple of groups, people kind of figured out in some of these groups that they had been infiltrated, so some of the groups have disappeared. So it's a little harder to kind of get a feel for certain events, both on the political left and the political right, if they're really happening or not, because there's just been a lot of shift in there. And I've always said I purposely try to stay somewhat disconnected because it gives me a lot of plausible deniability. It's like, I'm not in that group. I didn't know. But there are groups that we're in. There's a couple of things that are planned on both sides, but the chatter's pretty low level on both of them. There's one event that I'm thinking about, and I'm really thinking it'll probably be like 10 protesters and 50 reporters at this one event. And I generally don't go to that. It's just vulture-y to go to stuff like that. But we are planning to stream on Saturday. There's a bunch of different stuff over there. And anyway, that's what's going on, Malcontent. So be good to each other. Be kind to each other. And keep wearing a freaking mask. Please. Get immunized. Wear a mask. Try to engage in constructive conversation with others. Yeah, Shell, there's that too. The Proud Boys are kind of in Proud Boys in the political north and the Pacific Northwest are kind of tattered right now, right? You've got multiple people arrested, and under a magnifying glass with the feds right now. Really, if you think of people that you identify as visible faces and kind of leaders in the Pacific Northwest, it's tiny. I mean, it's kind of tiny, right? Enrique, look, I'm going to sidebar about the Proud Boys here for a little bit. Like, Enrique, I can't figure out. I can't figure him out. And what I can't figure out with Enrique is I look at him like John Sullivan. It's like this time a year ago, I would have gone, Enrique's the leader of the Proud Boys, and that's all there is to it. The end. Now, I'm like, no. I don't know who you are anymore. You are still the leader of the Proud Boys, but I'm really shocked that anybody would call you the leader of the Proud Boys at this point. Because we learned he was a police informant in another life. But then we know that he was in Washington, D.C., and he committed these acts of arson, of property destruction, of arson. And the officials in Washington, D.C. said they were going to arrest who did it. And they said they're going to treat us as hate crime. And he said, I did it. I'm telling you right now, I did it. You come arrest my ass the next time I come to Washington, D.C. And then he showed up on January 4, and he got arrested. No, and I want to talk about that. I want to talk because I haven't had a chance to watch it, but I heard it's a total shit show. I heard it was kind of a disaster for Freight Broker. Hold that thought because I do want to talk about it. I haven't watched it. So in the comments right now, if you watched it, go ahead and give me some color commentary on what you watched. Then I'll tell people what I saw. Then we know, again, that Enrique was arrested on the 4th. And then he was told, your happy ass can't be in Washington, D.C. He also was busted for more than just a sign because he had high-capacity magazines with him, which are illegal in Washington, D.C. And all of that has gone through Supreme Court and yada at this point. So he's kind of screwed on those charges. Now, historically, Enrique would have just showed up on the 6th. He'd have been, smoke you. You can't tell me what to do. I was just going to drop an F-bomb, but I'm not. And so he didn't show up. And what did he say? He said, hey, Nordine, you're in charge. Now, Ethan Nordine had to be more involved in the planning on this than, here's the plan on the night of the 4th, and you're going to start executing this tomorrow. He had to have been more engaged in that. Then Enrique gives an interview, not to OWN, not to Fox, not to Newsmax, not to The Blaze, not to Alex Jones on InfoWars. And I get Alex Jones and InfoWars has kind of become irrelevant at this point. No, he goes on CNN. And then in the middle of the CNN interview, drops that he had given testimony to a grand jury. And I can't remember who interviewed Enrique, but stopped. He was like, wait a minute. I want to go back. You just said that you did testimony to a grand jury. He's like, I did? He's like, yeah, you did. He said, well, then I guess I did. So like, Enrique, I'm like, we knew he was a police informant before. We knew he said, come at me, bro, and arrest me. He essentially walked in to get arrested, and then he went home. He went back to Florida. And a bunch of the other Proud Boys now have been arrested. So it's like, did like he throw the Proud Boys organization under the bus? And if that's what Enrique did, then what's his end game? And then that ties right back to John Sullivan, which is why I'm so glad somebody brought this up on Freight Broker, because I haven't seen it. And I guess I need to go dig and watch it. But what I heard was on the Freight Broker interview is John Sullivan went on there. John Sullivan basically controlled the interview. Freight Broker did a really shitty job at essentially trying to trap Jaden X, John Sullivan, into, you're Antifa and you were the mastermind behind all of this, because, like, come on, John's smarter than that. Anybody would know that, right? You would have to come in with some really carefully planned questions, leading questions, to try to get him moving one or the other. I know John Sullivan's lawyers were not happy that he gave this interview. I did see some chatter on that. And basically what I heard is that John Sullivan basically handed his ass to Freight Broker, and that Freight Broker turned like red and purple and other shades of colors and got really upset because he wasn't getting what he wanted. And my view on that part, and I say this as someone who didn't watch the interview, but my view on that part is this. If Freight Broker likes the smell of his own farts, because we know this, right? He just puts his own narrative out there, and he'll never back from a narrative that he put out there. Oh, John's a total sketchy dude. John Sullivan is a totally sketchy dude. And, and his brother, who is with the Proud Boys, is a sketchy dude. And this is why I'm like, I wouldn't bet against if this all ever lands in court and like it becomes public record. I wouldn't bet against that there is something with like Enrique and John Sullivan's brother and John Sullivan. Not that like Enrique and John Sullivan are working together, but like the web, right? Think of it as like a spider webs or cobwebs, that these webs are interconnected. Because it just doesn't add up. When you look at all those pieces, it doesn't add up. I guess the other thing is like, I heard something on the lines of like John, basically dropped in Freight Broker. He's been paid like $80,000 for interviews. See, that's the other thing too. I'm like, how much did John Sullivan ain't doing nothing for free. We know that. We know this much about John Sullivan. He in it for John Sullivan. So I want to know how much Freight Broker paid to get schooled by John Sullivan on his own show. I would love to know that. I mean, look, if it was me interviewing John Sullivan, I would have had like all of the research that was done out of Salt Lake City and done out of Rebellion Baby here in the Puget Sound area. They have a great thread. We've promoted that thread. We went through, we did on the show, like who is John Sullivan, and we pulled a lot of their information. We were connected with people in Salt Lake City who had done research. We pulled some other stories that had done research. We did all this compilation. I know that Keith Olbermann did some stuff, and we yanked some stuff from there. I would have had like some of his, like, hey, John, here's this tweet where you liked it, and it's like this racist Proud Boy stuff. So what's up with that? He explained why you liked this. Here's this tweet that is showing fascist Nazi grade ideation, right? Like, look, I'm putting it up here so you can see it, and I can kind of go, dude, what's up with this? At the risk of getting pulled off the air for just putting this up here because it's so freaking awful. And dude, you retweeted this. It's right here. You retweeted it. So explain this to us like we're 5-year-old. Why'd you do this? Catherine, Freight Broker, he's a guy out of PDX. He does a show like this. And he has a lot more people to watch. He has way a lot more people to watch. I mean, this is how he pays the bills. I'm I don't want to go back to corporate America. I want to do this to pay my bills. I don't want to go back. Don't let me go back. I don't want to go back. I want to be selling my soul, working on marketing projects that I hate. The reason he has so many viewers, I mean, there's a couple of reasons. His approach is different than mine. I'm going to give you that. He lives in Florida? Oh, man, I thought he was in Portland. I didn't know he was in Florida. So he's just obsessed with Portland to the point that he bought billboards there? Whoa. Wow. Okay. I just learned something. I always thought he was a Portland guy. Always thought he was a Portland guy. He lives in Florida. Just learned something. First of all, he's been doing it a lot longer than me, number one. Number two, he steals some content, flat out. He's not doing it as much. He was definitely doing it over the summer. I know he was stealing our content early on, and I did the same thing when people are stealing our content. When I figured it out, one of the easiest way to end it is just start calling them out for their shit live on air. And his followers would brigade, so it would be super obvious when they were stealing your content because you would just start seeing yeet yeet everywhere in the comments. And it was like, oh, we're on Freight Broker. Hey, Freight Broker, you piece of shit. You're stealing my content. How's it going, you cocksucker? And then within a couple of minutes, the yeet yeets would die, and then we know it's like, okay, he turned it off because, I'm just calling out for his bullshit on there. The other reason he has so many people that follow is because for the political right, bingo. Thank you. Taver just nailed it. He caters to the Ryaport audience. Nowadays, he's mostly just a limbo-style talking head. That's exactly 100% right. And the sad reality is, and honestly, I'm going to get a little ranty. I'm going to rant, preach to the choir. I'm going to preach to the choir here. Yeet, yeet. I love this thing right now that's on TikTok. It's like, what do we tell the therapist if the therapist asks, are you still thinking about jumping off bridges? The person stares off into space like, yeet? No! There's like this whole meme thing on TikTok that's going around with yeet that I absolutely love right now. But I am going to get a little ranty on this. It's much easier to do this show if you're on the political right. Honestly, I was thinking to myself back in 2016, I was like, I know a path to make a lot of money. I'll just fake all the political rights. Like, seriously, I really thought about this. I'm just going to fake it. I'm going to fake the political right thing. I'm going to do the political right thing. I'm going to sell my soul, and I'm just going to make ridiculous money because I can get up here and just be the ranty white guy and liberals this and liberals that. And I'm going to have a good watch. And the reason you get it is because fear is an easy message. People on the political look at what the One American News Network headline is. Scary brown people at the Mexican border. Not, guess what? COVID could maybe come to an end. Like, legitimately, we could be out of the woods by the fall. Don't need any more economic aid. We're back on track by the fall. No, that's not the headline. The headline there, scary brown people at the Texas border. Oh, and Lauren Boebert, I saw your piece of trash video about walls. Donald Trump built 47 miles of wall. And let's not forget, the Ford Expedition that was hit in Imperial, California, with 13 people killed, 10 are still in the hospital, severely injured. Yeah, that and another vehicle drove through the wall that they just went in and cut the metal bollards. And that section of wall was not up for replacement in Donald Trump's plans if he had stayed on for another 4 years. That section of wall was built after 2007 and was deemed good enough. It was basically the big, beautiful wall that it's the same design. It's just the only difference is it's the bollards are a little thinner and they're not like 30 feet tall. They're 25 feet tall in that section. They just literally came in, cut the bollards, and drove right across the friggin' border. Yeah, Lauren. Bad monkey, Lauren. You're naughty little monkey, you. All right, let me get real ranty. It's much harder to do a freight broker style thing or, a show like this to a liberal audience. It's way harder because liberals are factionalized, and I see this all the time. I'm seeing this on Twitter, right? I've posted a couple of things. We posted this thing on Twitter defending Ian because there's I'm going to get into some streamer drama. There's streamer drama with Concrete Reporting and Ian. And there are some disingenuous things that are being said about Ian at Concrete Reporting. Namely, he's a chud, he works with CJ, and here's a picture. And it's like, that's like Donald Trump grade tactics, right? Because anybody paying attention knows CJ and Ian parted ways back when CJ said, yes, Fox News, you can use our content. And the content ended up out of context on Tucker Carlson's show, and that's when the split happened. Because I could tell you, because I talked to Ian and CJ back in the CHOP days about allowing news agencies to reuse content, because after protests, sometimes, depending on the footage I got, sometimes my email and my phone would be blowing up from national affiliates wanting to use my content. And Ian was like, over my dead body. And CJ was like, and of course we know what happened. And look, as a streamer, CJ gets the story. No one can deny that. No one can deny that. Right? As a streamer, CJ is as solid a reporter as there is. On the other side of the coin, CJ has no moral compass. He chases clout. And he's one of these guys it's like, what do you stand for? Well, I stand for eyeballs. I stand for eyeballs at all costs. And that's CJ, but that's not Ian. And so we defended Ian on Twitter, and people didn't like that. Twitter accounts went down. We've been following this story with the Uber driver, and I know we're losing Twitter, and I don't care, right? But it just goes back to it. There's this. We have a very strong local audience, and that local audience is about the police suck, homeless, police suck, Seattle sucks, homeless. These are the core issues. Look, the police suck. I'm not going to deny that. We have a wicked, unhomed, homeless problem in Seattle. We still can cover these things. We were up at Denny Park. We were there 3 hours. We called the police out on their bullshit. We platformed a police officer who was willing to talk, the first police officer that I had ever had come, and was like, look, I want to get in your camera and talk. Why would we not give them a platform? We've interviewed other chuds. We talked to this other guy who was a chud. And I think, again, if you watched our coverage at Denny Park, I think here's the biggest thing. Whether you were an activist who was screaming at the police, an activist who was quietly there for mutual aid, the police officer we talked to, or the chud that we talked to, they all agreed on the problems. They all agreed on the impact. There was no disagreement. They also basically universally agreed on the inefficiency. Everyone seemed to agree. The resources are there. The money is there. There is no will at City Hall level, and there is no will in some, not all, in some of the private organizations to fix the problems. Because it is profitable to just offer temporary relief endlessly. Everyone agreed on that. Shell, I completely agree. And I struggle with not turning into an echo chamber, but it's much harder to grow a big audience and focus on a liberal audience, a left-wing audience, because we just saw this happen. We just saw this happen in Washington, D.C. I guarantee you there were Republicans who wanted to vote for that bill. There were Republicans in the Senate who wanted to vote for that bill. There were Republicans in the House that wanted to vote yes on their bill. On these, I guarantee you, on this American Rescue Act. Guarantee it. And there are Republicans in the House who are going to have to defend that vote in 2022, and it's going to hurt them in their reelection chances. And there are Republicans that know it. And they absolutely know it's going to hurt them. But you know what? They all held hands together, and they all said, we hate Democrats, and they all voted together in a block, in unity. And look what we had in the Democrats. For instance, we lost $100 a week for unemployment, right? Because we got $300, not $400. The plan was $400. Originally, it was $600. $400 was the compromise. And why did it go to $300? Because of a Democrat, Manchin, out of West Virginia, who's like, if you don't cut this down, I'm not voting for it. Now, Manchin's in a very red state that ironically there's a lot of people in that state are going to benefit from the $1.9 trillion. By the way, if you're one of those people who are like, Biden's not the president, really. Donald Trump was the president. He was sworn in on January 1st, and or he was sworn in on the 20th. There was a secret swearing ceremony, or he's actually running things out of Mar-a-Lago. And when the 20th of May, okay, not the 20th of May, when April 4 comes, okay, not April 4, April 19, okay, it's not April 19, when the July 4th, when that comes, right? If you're one of those people and you take that $1,400 check, you're stealing. because those checks are illegal if Biden's not president. So you shouldn't be taking Joe Biden's dirty money. You should be sending Joe Biden's money back to him, right? You shouldn't be on PUA or PUEC because that was an illegal law signed by Joe Biden. It wasn't signed by former social media icon Donald Trump. But Manchin said he was going to vote no. So we lost $100. And then the thing was okay, we'll take the $100 and we'll do September 30. And then they were like, okay, no, we'll do September 6th. But really it's September 4th. The program was going to end on August 31 anyway. So literally they lost the $100 and they lost a month. And they friggin' did it to kiss ass to one Democrat who's like, I'm not going to vote. Because we eat our own young. The Democrat, or I say we, I see it as a former Democrat because I don't identify the Democrat Party anymore. But they eat their own young. They don't unify. And we see that here in the audience. I say something on it, someone doesn't unfollow because I say one friggin' thing that doesn't align with their purity political view of the world. And quite frankly, it's frustrating. It's frustrating as hell. Because I really don't want to go back to corporate America. I really don't. But at the end of the day, I got to eat. And if I have to go back to corporate America to eat, I'm going to go back to corporate America to eat because that's the system we live in. I want to go back. I want to do this. This is rewarding. This energizes me. I like working on the videos and all that other stuff. And I work on some corporate video. And look, if I have someone who's a client right now, look, I love you as my clients. I do. When I say going back to corporate America, I mean like literally going back to corporate America. Like, hi, Microsoft, how'd you like to hire me? That's what I mean by going back to corporate America. I love my clients. I've worked on some fun projects recently with clients. But I love this. Not just being up here blavulating. I like doing the research and the news aspects and interviewing people and learning shit. I'm intellectually curious. And I'm at a point in my career where, yes, I still want to learn things, but I'm at a point in my career where I'm kind of like, you know, the old crusty master sergeant who like knows this shit, right? And so it's me going, this is how you do shit. I don't mind doing that stuff. But it's not as rewarding as, hey, I've got to build a website to build a news website. I have a company that builds websites, but I need to like learn how to build a WordPress site on steroids, and I'm going to go do it for me. That's way more rewarding than some working in corporate America and having, you know, my VP come in and goes, we need to do a website. Oh, okay. And you're in marketing. Yes, I'm marketing. Okay, good. Get us your plan on how you're going to build a website, and we need it in 2 weeks. Am I going to get any resource? No. You're not getting any resources. Plus, you have to do your regular job on top of that. So go learn everything you need to know about WordPress and go update our website. But that's not how the world. Yes, it is. That's how. No, that's not how the. You're leaving the room. Why are you? Shit. People who work in corporate America know just what the hell I'm talking about. Then you go and build a website, right? And they're like, "Well, it doesn't do this." And you only gave us 2 weeks. And I asked for a dev, and you said I wasn't going to get a dev. And I told you that we needed these 3 plugins, but you told me the IT department said the security review was going to take too long for those 3 plugins. Even though those 3 plugins have been certified by the security company already, but they want to do their own review, and they won't let me install any plugins on the base WordPress site. So that functionality doesn't exist. But you said you could. I never told you it could be. Why are you leaving the room? You left the room. It's corporate America. I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to go back to that. I'm friggin' feral now. I'm seriously feral. Go back and look how I was dressed doing these shows a year ago. I was wearing friggin' like I looked like it was in the friggin' evening news. I wore a suit coat and a button-down shirt, and I changed the shirt color today and different shirt every day. And I friggin' do these shows. I'm in the same shirt I wore all friggin' week. I'm so flippin' feral at this point. Oh, Arky, I love this here. We lost a lot of respect when we realized that calling out bad behavior actions or opinions privately didn't actually make any change, but public call-outs were super toxic and just causing drama and made people ditch us. But it went from being ineffective to highly effective. Oh my God, I love this. There's so much truth to that. There's a group for people at a company that I work. There's a private kind of hidden Facebook group for people that worked at a company I used to work at, and we're at that company for a long time. And I'm in that group. And somebody was talking about how they had been at the company for 20 years, and they were laid off in September because this company is in particularly very infamous for laying off people between 50 and 55. They're super infamous in doing this. They were laid off. They're looking for another role, and what they're finding is now that they've left that corporate environment and they have about 6 months out of it, 6-7 months out of it, and what they're finding is that they don't like who they are, right? They don't like who they become. And then there were a bunch of comments about how the corporate culture there changes people. Like somebody was like, one day I was at home and I was with, and I'm being a little cagey in what's written because I don't want to give too much specifics, but they were saying how one day they were at home, somebody close to them said something, and their response was a very corporate conference room response, and it was derogatory. And they said, and of course you don't know if it's true because it's the internet, but they said they went in and they quit like a month later because they're like, holy crap, this is changing me, who I am. And I was at another company. I'm a little more open with the fact that I was at Amazon and AWS. I supported 2 groups. I was there. One group I was in, it was amazing. It really was. It was like working in a small company, and everybody there was great. And the other group that I was in, that group was like the New York Times story. It was exactly like the New York Times story. People crying after meetings, people crying at their desk. I came out of a meeting when I sat down on my desk, like, I am not going to start freaking crying after this meeting. 16-hour days, 6-7 days a week. It's never enough. Nothing's ever good enough. Misogyny, racism. It was horrid. And it just depends on the manager and the groups that you're in that it goes into. But I work with an amazing team of people. There's about 20 people, and it is amazing. And I work with amazing people with my clients. One of the nice things when you have your own gig, when you run your own business, you can fire toxic clients. I'm not going to work with you anymore. I've only fired one client. The other thing is you could be talking to a potential client and you could just be like, when the alarm bells start going off, right? You could just be like, I'm not going to send that bid. Or you could be, I'm going to make that bid a lot higher so that, if they, for whatever reason, accept the overpriced bid, then I have padded in money to deal with the headaches so that maybe if it gets bad enough, I can hire someone and go, look, I'm hiring you as a 1099. I just need you to project manage this client because holy shit. And I've done that with one client. Or they're going to look at the bid and just go, I'm not doing, you're out of your mind. Yeah, that was the intent. And sometimes I bid stuff and people are still, you're out of your mind. Like, well, you get what you pay for. But I have a great team. Our work environment is virtual. It is not toxic. It is built on respect. I'm not just up here patting myself on the back. We don't want toxicity in the team. Everyone in the team has a voice. Everyone can raise their hand and go, hey, do this. We had a board meeting yesterday, on Sunday, and in that board meeting Sunday, I'm just like, I'm opening up. I want ideas. Give me ideas. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Archie, you just nailed it, right? This is exactly it. That's exactly it. Archie, that's exactly it. Archie just nailed it. And that's my view. It's like how my eyes have been opened up to the inequality and the suffering and how broken the system is. How can I go back to a 6-figure job and ignore that now? And then just pretend like nothing is wrong. To go back into a system that I, quite frankly, have benefited from and lived a great life and got opportunities that were based on the color of the skin and the fact that I have a dick. Point blank. Opportunities that other people didn't get because they don't have white skin or they don't have a dick and they were more qualified or better than me for those jobs. Simple truth. There's definitely jobs and stuff I definitely got in the merit, and I had to fight for it to get into those and not saying that. But the system is stacked against minorities. That's why they're called minorities, because the system is stacked against the minorities. My ding-a-ling, won't you play with my ding-a-ling? You probably couldn't even put that song on the radio right now, right? People would lose their shit. I want to go back. I want to do this and at a higher production value than what I'm doing right now. And yeah, like normally we'd be over in studio too. Whenever we're doing the other stuff, right? We're doing the conferences, or we're covering some other thing. We do it in here where I'm at the desk, because it's just easier to sit and watch that stuff. So K5 is saying fire at an Auburn commercial building. Oh, King 5. I'm like, what's K5? There's a lot of commercial buildings in Auburn. That could be anything. You know, the other thing, like you just talk about things that are broken, right? Look at the violence that's going on in the southern half of Seattle and in South King County. You know, people, oh, Seattle. I mean, it's not just there. It's Kent and it's Renton, and there's a huge gang war that's going on, and like no one's even talking about it. Isn't it amazing that there are things that the political right were obsessed with that they don't even talk about anymore? We don't talk about scary Muslims anymore at all, right? Political right don't talk about scary Muslims no more. That's apparently not a problem. We don't talk about Middle East or anything like that anymore. That they've forgotten about. Apparently, the opioid epidemic is solved, and that I lay on the feet of everybody, because actually it's not. It's gotten even worse. You know, I don't know if Sinclair stopped doing the terrorist testing. We put a thing up, K Variable. There's a thing on our Twitter, and you don't have to scroll that far down to find it. I think it was just yesterday, where they had 2 stories about the George Floyd trial. They were literally side by side on the Como website. One was written by Sinclair, the other was written by the Associated Press. And the spin on the 2 stories was so friggin' different. It was just stunning. I heard that there were layoffs over at Como, including 6 reporters / on-air personalities, but I don't know who. I also don't know. I used to do data analysis on the side for the meteorology department. Just they send me these huge. I'm really good at Excel. They would send me massive data sets, and I'd be, I can help you create some of the story here. Let me go ahead and slice and dice this data. Como has like a dedicated meteorologist. So that isn't an on-air personality. Like they are a scientific meteorologist. which I don't know if a lot of people realize that. So Como does their own forecasts. He's a neat guy. He's a great guy. And I've, loosely, it's not like we've had beers together or thing, but known him for years. He's a good guy. Fascinating guy. Knows a lot about the weather. But I don't know. It's very unusual today for local affiliate TV stations to have their own in-house kind of scientific meteorologist. Because you say meteorologist in TV station, you say, hi, we got this cold front that's coming up over here, and that's going to go this way. But that'll be okay, because in 2 days, it's going to be 65 degrees. Now we're going to hand it off over to Charlie with the traffic. Yes, thank you very much for that, David. We're over here, and we're looking at the highway in traffic here on I-5. And there's an accident. It's going to be bumper to bumper again today. If you were planning to get to work early, you're going to have to forget that second cup of coffee. And now we're going to go over to Tom. Thank you, Charlie, and we really do appreciate that. Now we've got the latest news here coming out of the business sector. That's when you think, anyway. Span a lot. No shit. No, Pam, you're totally right on calling me that out there. It's the Derek Chauvin trial. You're 100%. You are spot. See, there you go. That's what I mean. The system's screwed up. And you are 100% right in calling me out on that. And thank you. Wow. I think I know. I want to see. Oh, that's over right by Bigfoot Java. That is right off of 167. And yeah, that's right at 37th Highway 167 and West Valley Highway North. Span Alaska Transportation and Bigfoot, West Valley Bigfoot Java's there. And the Valley Animal Hospital is there. I know this area. Like, I could drive there right now. I mean, I wouldn't drive there, but it's like I know how to drive right to that spot right now. Derek Chauvin. Yeah, we have that on our Twitter today. They reinstated the third-degree murder charge on him, which is really significant. Yeah, that's probably the one he is most likely to get convicted on. If he is convicted, I think there's a high chance he's going to get convicted. You know, another one that we put up there in Oklahoma, 5 officers charged with first-degree manslaughter for shooting a 15-year-old back in November. The 15-year-old was involved with an armed robbery, and I know that for chuds, I don't have the chud button on here, by the way. Oh, wait a minute. I don't have the chud button, but I can do this.
Chud. It's a cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
There. I have something different than chud buttons. I know that they're done listening to it. 6 different police officers by the security camera and all the body cameras were barking 6 different sets of orders to the 15-year-old. 15-year-old was told to lift up his shirt, had a gun, went and got the gun. They were like, dude, like literally when the officer said, don't do that, he held the gun like, I don't have something that's gun-like here, but he kind of like held it like that, and he put it on the ground in front of him, and then an officer told him to get on the ground, and when he went to go on the ground, 5 officers shot him dead. 6th officer used less lethal. That 6th officer that used less lethal is not facing any charges. The other 5 have all been charged with first-degree manslaughter, and the video is pretty horrible on it. But once again, to me, this is just another example of like, right? This is the second police-involved shooting that Oklahoma is prosecuting in less than a month. Oklahoma and Texas is more friggin' woke than the city of Seattle when it comes to police-involved shooting. It's stunning to me. Friggin'. Anyway, we have that story up there. The other story that I will admit I'm obsessed with is this Uber driver who, and then as the onion has been unpeeled, this Uber driver story down in San Francisco is getting worse and worse and worse, right? At first, we have this video where she like fakes cough and COVID, grabs his phone, rips his mask off his face, refuses to get out of his car. Then we find out that they pepper sprayed the driver, and the driver actually didn't release that part of the video. If I was the driver, I would have just released the whole friggin' dash cam video. But he didn't, for whatever reason, he didn't release that part, but we found out he was pepper sprayed. 2 of the 3 women involved with that have warrants out for their arrest for robbery and assault. So, and then we roasted on our TikTok the one woman because she went on her Instagram and she made 2 videos. At first, I thought she made 1. She made a second one in which she was just dressed in her underwear. She just dressed in panties and a matching bra, which just indicates her mental state out of the gate. Anyway, 2 of them are facing criminal charges now. And Uber actually wasn't very responsive to the driver, and Uber now is like I guess the driver had to fight to get cleaning money to get the scent of pepper spray out of his friggin' car. And Uber was like pushing back on that at first. And so now Uber is like, we're taking care of the driver. Yeah, we're not handling this one well. Anyway, before I went on the air, I wanted to check on them. And I'm thrilled to see that 2 of them are facing criminal charges and that there will be logical consequences. And also in that video we did for TikTok, that's part of what I see. I was like, pepper spray, that's assault. You should just shut up because you're digging a... Dan, I agree. I'm seeing it. I'm placing him a felony. Wow, Dan, you're going with second. You're going with second degree. Her second video was not like a thirst trap thing. I mean, unless that was her whole thing, that was her idea. But then I think it just goes to show how detached from reality is. If she thought that was her idea, TikTok's standards and practices are really weird too. That video, I'm under the impression, wouldn't have floated on TikTok. She did it on Instagram. I wonder what happens if I did a video. Oh, the other thing is there's this story that we saw. This would have been in the top 10. I don't know if people saw this. The naked cowboy, New York City naked cowboy, he was arrested in Florida, and it turns out that the naked cowboy is a chud, and he's an anti-masker. He said some kind of awful racist things as he was getting arrested. And made it very, very clear that, he doesn't, believe in masks. Anyway, so the naked cowboy was arrested in Florida because he went down there to entertain spring breakers or something. There's or he was there for some event week thing that loosely would be attached to spring break, I guess. Anyway, he got arrested and he's out on $600 bail. It's like one of these, same thing. It's just like, dude, haven't you ever seen any of these videos that when you're getting arrested, you just shut up? You don't say anything. And when you're like a high public figure like the naked cowboy from New York City and everybody around you getting arrested like this, that you really need to shut your mouth at that point? Because if you were just standing there quiet, you would be a sympathetic figure. The headlines would not be naked cowboy is an anti-masker chud. The headlines would be poor naked cowboy arrested for no reason in Florida. But you had to go run your mouth, you dumbass. Society. Oh, Pam, I didn't know that. But it fits. It fits. All right, so they knocked down the fire there at Span Alaska Transportation. There's all that stuff down there. Well, oh my God, there's a Tommy Bahama distribution center right there. I'm looking at there's a Tommy Bahama distribution center in Auburn, right next to Span Alaska Transportation. All right, Malcontents, I think I've talked my piece. Share, like, follow. If you got any show ideas, let us know. I don't want to go back. I want to do this. Oh, Joyce, do tell more. Please, do tell. Unintentional death during intentional commission of a dangerous felony. Dan is wise. Like, I know a little bit about Dan's background. Dan is wise. So Dan thinks they're going to get second-degree murder. I'm not going to vote against it. I wouldn't vote against it. All right. I think I've spoken my piece. I've gotten all rambly and ranty, and I think I've said everything I'm going to say. We'll be back on Monday. We got some streams we're going to be doing over the weekend. It's going to be gorgeous. Get outside on Saturday, but don't, wear a mask. There's you guys have this really fascinating conversation going on the Derek Chauvin trial right now. And I'm just watching it go by here, right? Thought second degree requires intent to kill, where third degree is, right? The third degree in Minnesota is written, it's like almost like the way it's written is like accidental murder. I'm really oversimplifying this because it wasn't applied to an individual until it was applied to Officer Noom in 2017. And that is weaved its way up to the Supreme Court there. So, and that's what I thought too. I thought second degree requires intent, but not premeditation. That essentially first degree murder is, I intend to kill you and I've planned it all out. So like second degree murder is you shoot someone because you plan to kill them, but first degree murder is you dug a grave somewhere first. And then you tracked the person down and shot them. Again, way oversimplifying things. And as I understood it, from the little bit that I was researching on the debate on the third degree murder, and I will really demur to an expert like Dan on this, what I understood for third degree murder in the state of Minnesota was you're basically doing something so stupid or awful that you should know logically that it will kill someone, but it's not directed as an individual. It's directed as a group of someone's, and you ended up killing someone. And that's what third degree murder is. So third degree murder might be, I'm target shooting and there is a busy road 500 feet behind, the targets where I'm shooting, and there's a inadequate berm and yada, yada. And any reasonable person should know that if you're just firing away at targets like that, it's going to be real easy for a bullet to hit somebody in a car drive. I'm, again, way oversimplifying. But that's kind of what I understood the whole third degree murder thing was. It was like you murdered someone because you're stupid. And you should have known better. Any reasonable person would know better. But it was not written or translated. I guess that's the thing, is they're trying to debate the way it's written. It was never translated as being for person to person. It was person and groups of persons. In this 2017 case with the woman who was shot by the Muslim officer. I say Muslim officer because, oh my goodness, they convicted him so fast. A brown person shot a blonde white woman, and boy, we had no problem charging an officer there. But yeah, you go ahead and tell me how the system's not racist. Take all the time you want. So, what's this outside you speak of? It's going to be over 60 degrees Saturday. People should get outside. Remember, it's a lot safer outside. Social distance. At a crowded path or something, wear a mask. Just keep moving. Obviously, if you're in a group that you can't do it, but it's supposed to be beautiful Saturday. You should get outside. All right. I'm done. Spread the word, spread the love, spread the eyeballs. We need eyeballs. We need followers. We need likes. At the end of the day, it's on me. I'm not doing something right. I mean, and that's part of it. I'm not doing something right. Whatever was working isn't working as well anymore. We've got to change things up to broaden the audience, and I get it. And I got to figure out what that is, and I got to figure out pretty quickly at this point. But it is frustrating to me that in the political left, and we've seen this, if we come up with something, and there have been times where it's like, we're going to lose followers tonight on this story. You watch. Sometimes I'm wrong. I'll say, but mods and admins can tell you, it'd be like, we're going to lose followers, and we lose followers. Because it's like people aren't going to like this position. And you don't get that on the political right. On the political right, you'll get, you're an asshole and stuff, but they stick around. Okay, Joyce is telling us about the naked cowboy. He gets his cohort to run behind you with your camera, and the guy then gets a picture of naked cowboy suddenly, intensely, and very invasively. No! Where did the comment go? Grabbing your ass suddenly out of the blue, and then you're left to have a picture of the pervert grabbing your ass on your own camera. It's committing sexual assault, and he thinks it's funny. He should be banned from Times Square. Damn. I've gone to New York a lot. I think I've only seen him once. Like, every time I've been there, he's not in Times Square. Let's see. Greg Hinton's second-degree murder in California juvenile, which I was charged with after I put one hit of acid on my teacher's coffee. I was charged as an adult, and I was looking at 25 to life and how it works, and the judge can override the jurors and give you 25s a year or give you the life sentence. And I will say, Greg, wow, that is a ridiculous story. It would have to be a shit ton of acid to kill somebody. So I don't know why they did that. That's just a shitty story all the way around. But I do know that different states, second degree, third degree, second degree, first degree murder mean different things. That I do know. Like, for instance, I know here in Washington State, we don't have an attempted murder statute. It's called first degree assault. That I do know. So first degree assault here in Washington is the equivalent of attempted murder. There is no such thing as attempted murder. Yeah, I know I know the numbers are driven by riot porn, but at the end of the day, there's not going to be riot porn. Yeah, I was thinking about this. See, I'm not going to be on the air for a couple of minutes. I was thinking about this today. What's going to happen? We'll have right, the Derek Chauvin case is going to happen. That will go on for a few weeks. We're going to have something that will come out of that. And there's going to be protests. Manny Ellis will have a decision by early April on Manny Ellis. That thing is dragged out for over a year. So my belief is that the officers involved with Manny Ellis are going to get to walk, because generally charges come like that and we got nothing, takes forever. And so, and the state of Washington, because we are not woke, so even with I-940, we're not big on prosecuting officers in the state of Washington. So I think in the Manny Ellis situation, there's not going to be any, and I agree, Joyce, after you told the story, I agree that he should be arrested. So there'll be protests around that. Those protests will be down in Tacoma, because for whatever reason, in the Seattle protest community, is like anything that happens like past Rainier just doesn't seem to exist. I'm calling it as I see it. And I've called that out multiple times. And I know I've lost followers over that comment. And I'm still completely puzzled on Jesse Sarre, on where the support is for the family, and by the fact that there's actually an officer being prosecuted on I-940, a white officer that killed 3 people in 11 years. Jesse Sarre is a person of color, was a person of color, an immigrant person of color, and there's no support. It's like it didn't happen. I don't know why. And I've talked to other people involved with that, and quite frankly, they're hurt and they're confused. They don't understand why there isn't the support. But anyway, I think at Tacoma there'll be some protests after that. I think we're going to have May Day protests, right? Last year we didn't really have May Day protests. There was no march, and the Portland anarchists didn't come up because of Portland. And I've complained about the Portland. I've been consistent on this. This is a good example. I'm going to lose followers on this. But I've complained about for years the Portland anarchists come up here on May Day, May 1st, after the unions come in and do their peaceful marches to, break shit in downtown Seattle. I think we'll have some of that here, but I don't think we'll have a lot of it, because there is a ton of unhome now in downtown Seattle. And ironically, a lot of the businesses that and I know when I say anarchists for these are insurrectionist anarchists by definition. So I'm going to break it down. Insurrection anarchists, they're a type of anarchists who just want to see it burn. They just want to see shit burn. They're every bit as bad as Far Root Boogaloo Boys. Sorry. calling it as I see it. There is no agenda beyond watch it burn. They're not going to have a lot of windows to break because most of the places they wanted to see gone anyway, like Banana Republic, they've closed and left downtown anyway. And that isn't because of protests and it's complicated and all. I'm not going to get into that. But I think on May 1st, we're going to get that. I think there's going to be protests around, that May 30, May 31. I think we're going to see stuff on Capitol Hill on June 1. I think we'll see stuff on Capitol Hill on June 8 because that's the first day of CHOP. So I think we're going to see some stuff, but we're not going to see anything at the volume or tempo that we saw last year. And so if people are like, oh, there's going to be more, I called it protest porn. That's what I call on the air is protest porn, right? People called it trauma porn. I called it protest porn. People love to protest porn. And there's not there's not going to be protest porn. There'll be this little stuff, as I said, like May 1 could be interesting, but I'm going to tell you, they're not going to want any streamers around, let alone mainstream media. It's going to be probably a good way to go get your camera equipment broken if there's any stuff going on May 1 trying to cover that stuff. Or do what we've done in the past. You walk a block and a half behind and you film at a distance. But then, of course, then you're exposed to chuds and you're exposed to cops who want to take you out as every bit as bad as the insurrectional anarchists. But there isn't going to be the protest porn. And I've thought to myself, it's like, maybe I will start getting on some airplanes and covering some other stuff. There's some stuff I would have loved to have covered. I'll give you a great example. All this big snow events that they had down in Texas, I'd have covered that. I'd have been all friggin' over that if it wasn't for COVID. The problem is that it would have been really hard to get down there, and be able to cover that in a safe way. I would have been all over that Texas story. Totally would have covered that. Yeah, panel discussions is something we've considered. I've been looking at StreamYard and some other software where you can get multiple people in at the same time and have the conversations. I have looked at that. There's some minor technology barriers. That's the barrier. There's some minor technology barriers there, but they're minor. Stress it. I have the knowledge. I have the equipment. It's just really getting the platform. I have looked into that. We are definitely going to be doing a lot more interviewing people. We've actually had this has been an interesting problem. We've had people where we've had interviews lined up, but we're starting to get perceived as a news organization, which of course is a good problem to have. But it's coming with a double-edged sword. And there are people who were willing, but then it's kind of like, it's almost like you're a little too legit. And then, it's like, I don't want to talk to the news. I've literally had people say that, which are kind of like, okay, and ouch. So that's been a bit of a challenge. And I know that we have a couple of stories that have been handed off to us that we have in the cooler, and I'm either going to have to write it or someone else is going to need to write it. We have one story, it's going scale. It needs to get written. There's just a ton of information that needs to be synthesized to write it. There's some other stuff too. But I'm really going to be ramping up outreach for people to interview. One of the things, look, I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to be reaching out to all of the mayoral candidates for Seattle. Look, if someone like Ari Hoffman's going to run, I'll reach out to Ari Hoffman. If Ari Hoffman says yes, I'm going to put him on the show. And I'm going to treat him with respect. I'm not going to pull punches, but I will treat him with respect. I'll just flat out say it, right? If Mike Solon runs for, he's hinted he wants to run for mayor. If Mike Solon's running for mayor, Mike Solon's going to get an invitation to come talk on the show. And I'm going to stick to mayor, but I'm not going to pull punches. I'm going to ask questions. I think it's important to give equal time. I mean, obviously, we want to get Echo Hawk on and a couple couple of people. Nikita Oliver just put in her hat in the ring for 9th. Would love to get Nikita on the show and talk to her about, for the position at large, the ninth seat that's open up. I think Nikita's going to win that thing. Win that I think that's like done. I totally think she's going to win it. And I think she'll do a good job at that. I think it's going to be, like the mayoral race in Seattle. I think it's going to be an interesting race. Because I've said many times on air, I don't know who the hell would want to be mayor of this friggin' city. I have a lot of respect for anybody putting their hat in the ring, period, because it's just such a friggin' mess. And does Nikita go by they? It's funny I said she, and then I was thinking, it was like, but does Nikita go by they, them? So Nikita does go by they, them. I'm presuming that the Carrie's thing on they, them is in reference to Nikita. As soon as I said she, I was like, don't they go by they, them? Rashi, I'm pretty sure it's Nikita. Yeah, see, Carrie's saying yes. Nikita goes by they, them. Oh, Archie, we definitely have something that needs a lot of synthesis, and I think it's right up your alley, to be candid. I think it's the kind of story that you like. So we definitely want to do more interviews. We thought we were going to actually have a state senator on. They backed out. So about S5226. It's a shame. It's a shame they backed out because S5226 is a really interesting bill. It would have been, been good to get an opportunity to give it some. It's basically a driving while poor, making driving while poor illegal in the state of Washington. Actually, be a good story to pack the city council with good people. Well, Thea, the bar's low right now. The bar is really low. It's another, like, who would want to be on the city council in Seattle? Those people deserve a lot of money, even though I don't think that they do a whole lot. They really do, because I can't imagine. I wouldn't want to do it. I remember this time last year, people were saying, you should run for office. You should run for office. Elections are coming up here and there. You should run for office. And I'm like, oh, hell no. I said, first of all, I would never put myself through it. Second of all, I got too many skeletons in my closet. And third of all, people don't want the friggin' truth. They don't want the truth dropped on their ass. And I'm just too direct. People couldn't handle it here. All right. This is it. I'm done. You got, and I'm not, I'm not going to look at the comments. You guys aren't going to rope me in with some other comment here. I'm done. Be good to each other. And we'll see you over the weekend somewhere. Location, we'll figure it out. Because there's actually a ton of protests and actions and other stuff going on. So that's so I'm not being cagey. It really will be, what does it look like there's actually going to be people showing up at, which one is that, and that's where we'll go. The other possibility may be, it's like, can we get to this one in the morning and this one in the afternoon? Can we chain a couple of events together and do coverage? So with that, see, I just looked at the comments. Don't look at the comments. That's it. I'm saying goodbye. Goodbye. I'm out of here. Goodbye. Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events live as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals, including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
You fit the profile. You're the malcontent.
Nobody wants to hear the nonsensical ravings of a loudmouth malcontent.
Antifa, fuck you!
You are the biggest hypocrite on the face of the planet.
I say that you're a terrorist.